started. So when we are learning how to code for the first time, we say software development is giving computers instructions on what to do. So the first thing we do is to create a folder. And how do we do that? We create a folder on our document or desktop, okay? So you create a folder like so, and you can name it coding. I'm going to name this coding, all right? So once you create a folder called coding, you go over to your VS Code, which is what we'll be using to write our codes. And then I'm going to open up a new window. I'm going to open up a new window. All right? So once you open your code, you open up a new window. Now, once you have your new window open in VS Code, you go ahead and open that folder which we created so that we can start working. So I'm going to click on Open Folder, and I'll go over to my desktop, and I'm going to open the folder Coding. So I'm opening the folder Coding. So everything we're going to be creating is going to be inside this folder, all right? And then once you create your folder, we're starting with our HTML language. We're starting with our HTML language. So the first thing you do is to create a HTML file. So I'm going to click on New File, and I want to name it my web page. So because it's an HTML file, you need to put .html. All right? So that makes it a HTML file. So I have already created my file and folder. Okay? Now, when you are coding, whatever code you write, you need to see your output in a live server. So the next thing you do, you need to come over to your extensions. Come over to your extensions and click on live server. Make sure your live server is what? Enabled. And it's enabled either in your Webpage or your Chrome browser. For me, I'm using my Chrome browser, okay? So you must make sure you install your live server, all right? And then once your live server is installed, the next thing you do is to start writing your code. Now, because this is a HTML code, I'm going to start with my HTML writing. Now, anytime we're writing a code, we have what we call opening tags and closing tags. And this is what is called an opening tag. Okay? You have opening tag and closing tag. You must always start with an opening tag or a closing tag. So I'm going to start with this, and this is my HTML file. Okay? Now, an opening tag has just this open inverted V's. And anytime you write your code, you must have a closing tag. And what is a closing tag? A closing tag has a slash before it. Okay? A closing tag has a slash before it. So anytime you're writing your code, you must have an opening tag and a closing tag. The difference between an opening tag and a closing tag is the slash. The slash shows the closing tag. So you must always have a closing tag. If not, your code will not work. Okay? So now what do I want to write in my stuff? I want to give my tag a title. I want to write a title for my web page. So I'm going to click on title, and I want this title to be, let me say coding. Let me write coding as the title of this web page, okay? So now that I've written coding, can you see the closing tag for the title? You must always have a closing tag with a slash. So right now I'm going to save. Any code you write, you must save it. So I'm going to save. Once you save, you can now view it in your live server. So there we go. So I'm going to click on Go Live. I'm clicking on Go Live, and our coding page is up. Can you see the title here? The title says go live, okay? Coding, that's the title. Now, if you want to see your web page side by side your VS Code, all you need to do is to click on your Windows key and right arrow key, okay? And they can go side by side, so that as you write your code, you can see what you are writing by the side, all right? You can see what you're writing by the side. So next off, I want us to write a header. So I'm going to write a header. Remember, anything you're writing has an opening tag and a closing tag. And the difference between an opening tag and a closing tag is the slash. And each tag gives your code an instruction. So the first instruction we gave was a title, which is coding. Can you see the coding here? Was a title. So right now I want to give a header. And the header I want to give will be, let me write BDL Summer. So I'm writing BDL Summer as the header. And I'm going to save. Once you save and you refresh your browser, it's going to come over here. Can you see? The code we just wrote has come over here. All right? So do we understand our instructions? Any tag you select gives it an instruction. Now, the next thing I want to do is to write a paragraph. But before we write a paragraph, there's what we call sizes in coding. There's what we call sizes. Now, we have different sizes. We have from H1 to what? H6. We have H1 to H6. So anything you're writing, for example, this BDL Summer, if I use a H1 size, let's say I use H1, it's going to make that BDL Summer to be big. Okay, so let me just put it here, because I want to use a H1 size. So I'm going to put BDL, let me put it like so, BDL Summer. So H1 size makes it big. So I'm going to save. Once I save, can you see I'm using a bigger size, BDL Summer, okay? So you can actually use different sizing. We have H1, H2, H3, and H4. If I go ahead and use the H2 size, so this is the H2 size. The H2 size makes it a little bit smaller. So for the H2 size, I can write heading 2 so that you can see how the size is. Or let me still write BDL Summer, right? Let me keep writing BDL Summer. So BDL Summer, I press enter and I'll save. So once I save, I refresh my browser. Can you see I have BDL Summer? I will go ahead and do that for H3 size. I'll click on, so these are the different sizes we have. These are the different sizes we have. We have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. So I'm going to do a H4 now. I'm going to do a H4 so you can see the different sizes. BDL Summer. So anytime you are writing and you want to use a particular size, just go ahead and use your H tags. Your H tags. It makes you to write in different sizes. So I'm using my H5. So I'm going to write BDL Summer. And anytime you finish writing, always make sure you save. Make sure you save. Once you save, you refresh your browser, you will see what you wrote. Okay? Once you save and refresh your browser, you see what you wrote. So I've just saved. Can we now see all the different sizes? So these are the different sizes, okay? So this is how to code.